It was a Tuesday morning in Manchester, and the rain was doing its usual dreary dance against the windows of our semi-detached house. Alistair, a 43-year-old IT specialist, was getting ready for work, the usual routine unfolding before me. My wife, Bronwyn, a vibrant woman with a career in marketing, was already up, bustling around the kitchen making breakfast. Or so I thought. We'd been married for 15 years. 15 years of what I believed to be unwavering love and commitment. We had our ups and downs, sure, but nothing that ever felt insurmountable. We'd built a life together, a comfortable one, filled with shared dreams and aspirations. We weren't the most exciting couple, perhaps, but we were solid. Or so I thought. Lately, though, things had felt different. Bronwyn had been distant, preoccupied. She'd been working late more often, attending networking events that stretched into the wee hours. I'd chalked it up to the pressures of her job, the demands of climbing the corporate ladder. I wanted to be supportive, to give her space to thrive. Now, looking back, I feel like such a fool. That Tuesday morning, as I came downstairs, I found Bronwyn not making breakfast, but hunched over her phone, her fingers flying across the screen. She looked up, startled, a guilty flush creeping up her neck. "Morning, love," she said, her voice a little too bright, a little too forced. "Morning," I replied, my eyes lingering on her phone. "Anything interesting? Just work stuff," she said quickly, turning away. "Big presentation coming up. You know how it is," I nodded, trying to suppress the unease that was starting to gnaw at me. I wanted to believe her, I truly did, but something felt off, very off. The next few weeks were a blur of suspicion and paranoia. Bronwyn's behavior became increasingly erratic. She was constantly on her phone, whispering in hushed tones when I was around. She was less affectionate, less engaged. I felt like I was living with a stranger. I tried talking to her, expressing my concerns, but she brushed them aside, accusing me of being insecure and controlling. "You're suffocating me, Alistair," she'd say, her eyes filled with a strange mix of anger and resentment. "I need space to breathe." And so I gave her space. I retreated into myself, my heart aching with a pain I couldn't quite articulate. I started losing sleep, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. Was she having an affair? Was our marriage falling apart? One evening I decided I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers. Bronwyn was out at another networking event, and I knew I shouldn't, but I couldn't resist. I picked up her phone. It was unlocked. My heart pounded in my chest as I scrolled through her messages. Most of them were mundane, work-related. But then I saw it. A message from a contact saved as Mark P. The message read, "Can't wait for Friday, just you and me, miles away from everything." My blood ran cold. Mark P. Mark Peterson, Bronwyn's boss. The man she'd been spending all those late nights with. I scrolled further, my hands trembling. The messages were explicit, intimate. They painted a picture of a passionate affair, a secret world that Bronwyn had been carefully concealing from me. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. The air was sucked out of my lungs. My vision blurred. I stumbled backward, knocking over a vase. It shattered on the floor, the sound echoing in the silent house. I sank to my knees, the pieces of the vase mirroring the shattered fragments of my heart. 15 years. 15 years of love, loyalty, and commitment, all reduced to this. A string of deceitful messages on a phone. I spent the rest of the night in a daze, replaying the messages in my head, trying to make sense of it all. How could she do this to me? How could she betray me so callously? The next morning, Bronwyn came home, her face flushed, her eyes sparkling. "Had a great night," she said, breezing past me. "Sorry I'm late, got a bit carried away." I stared at her, my heart filled with a rage I'd never felt before. "I know," I said, my voice barely a whisper. She stopped, her smile faltering. "Know what I know about Mark?" I said, my voice growing louder. "I know about the messages. I know about Friday." Her face drained of color. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. She just stood there, frozen, like a deer caught in headlights. "How could you?" I asked, my voice cracking with emotion. "How could you do this to me, to us?" Tears welled up in her eyes. "Alistair, I don't," I said, cutting her off. "Don't even try to explain. I don't want to hear it. It just happened," she said, her voice trembling. It wasn't supposed to," I repeated, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "So you just accidentally fell into bed with your boss? Is that what you're telling me?" She didn't answer. She just stood there, sobbing. "Get out," I said, my voice cold and hard. "Get out of my house. I don't want to see you again." She looked at me, her eyes pleading. "Alistair, please get out," I roared, my voice shaking the walls. She flinched, grabbed her bag, and fled. I watched her go, my heart breaking into a million pieces. The next few weeks were the darkest of my life. I was consumed by grief, anger, and a profound sense of betrayal. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I just wandered around the house like a ghost, haunted by the memories of what we'd shared. I told my friends and family what had happened. They were shocked and supportive, offering words of comfort and encouragement. But nothing seemed to ease the pain. My best friend Barnaby was particularly incensed. "That bloody Bronwyn," he said, his face red with anger. "I always knew there was something off about her. You deserve better, Alistair. You're a good man." I appreciated his support, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was somehow to blame. Had I not been attentive enough? Had I not been exciting enough? Had I somehow driven her into Mark's arms? I knew it was irrational, but I couldn't help but question myself. One evening, Barnaby came over with a bottle of whiskey. "Come on, mate," he said, slapping me on the back. "Let's get you out of this funk." "We're going out," I protested, but he wouldn't take no for an answer. He dragged me to a local pub where we spent the evening drinking and talking. It helped a little. It was good to be around people, to laugh, to forget, even if just for a few hours. As the weeks turned into months, I started to heal. Slowly, painstakingly, I began to pick up the pieces of my shattered life. I started exercising again, eating healthier, and reconnecting with old hobbies. I also started seeing a therapist. She helped me process my emotions, understand my feelings, and move forward. "You're not responsible for Bronwyn's action," she said. "She made a choice, and it was a selfish one. You deserve to be happy, Alistair. Don't let her take that away from you." Her words resonated with me. I realized that she was right. I couldn't control what Bronwyn had done, but I could control how I reacted to it. I could choose to wallow in misery, or I could choose to move on and build a better life for myself. I chose the latter. I filed for divorce. Bronwyn didn't contest it. She seemed genuinely remorseful, but it was too late. The trust was gone, the love was gone. There was nothing left to salvage. The divorce was finalized a few months later. It was a difficult process, but I got through it. I kept the house, and Bronwyn moved into a small flat in the city center. I tried to move on with my life, but the image of Bronwyn with Mark kept replaying in my head. I was struggling to move on. One day, a mutual friend, Cyril, told me something that changed everything. He told me that Mark had been fired from his job. Apparently, Bronwyn wasn't the only woman he'd been having an affair with. There was a string of complaints, and the company had no choice but to let him go. But the story didn't end there. Cyril also told me that Mark's wife, Deirdre, had found out about the affair. She was furious, and she'd made Bronwyn's life a living hell. She'd contacted her clients, her colleagues, her friends, and exposed her affair to everyone she knew. Bronwyn's reputation was in tatters. She'd lost her job, her friends, and her social standing. I felt a pang of satisfaction. It wasn't the revenge I'd actively sought, but it was justice nonetheless. They'd both paid the price for their betrayal. I decided to take a trip. I needed to get away, to clear my head, to start fresh. I booked a flight to the Scottish Highlands, a place I'd always dreamed of visiting. I spent 2 weeks hiking through the mountains, breathing in the fresh air and soaking in the stunning scenery. It was exactly what I needed. I felt alive again, invigorated and hopeful. One evening, as I was sitting in a pub in a small village, I met a woman named Isolde. She was a local artist, and she was warm, intelligent, and funny. We struck up a conversation, and we talked for hours. I found myself drawn to her genuine smile and her kind eyes. We spent the next few days exploring the highlands together. We hiked, we laughed, we shared stories. I felt a connection with her that I hadn't felt with anyone in a long time. On the last day of my trip, as I was preparing to leave, Isolde kissed me. It was a gentle, tender kiss, but it was filled with promise. "Come back soon," she said, her eyes sparkling. "I will," I replied, my heart filled with hope. I returned to Manchester a changed man. I was still scarred by what had happened, but I was no longer defined by it. I was ready to move on, to embrace the future, to find love again. A few weeks later, Isolde came to visit me in Manchester. We spent the weekend exploring the city, going to museums and eating in restaurants. It was wonderful. We started dating, and our relationship blossomed. Isolde was everything Bronwyn wasn't: honest, supportive, and loving. I realized that Bronwyn's betrayal, as painful as it had been, had ultimately led me to something better. It had forced me to reevaluate my life, to prioritize my happiness, and to open myself up to new possibilities. One day, about a year after my divorce, I ran into Bronwyn at a local supermarket. She looked tired and worn, her face etched with sadness. "Alistair," she said, her voice barely audible. "Bronwyn," I replied, my voice neutral. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry," she said, her eyes filled with tears. "I know it doesn't mean much, but I truly am sorry for what I did. I ruined everything." "I know," I said, "but it's okay. I've moved on. I'm happy now." She looked at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of regret and envy. "I'm glad," she said. "I hope you find everything you're looking for." "I already have," I said, smiling. "Her name is Isolde." Bronwyn nodded, turned, and walked away. I watched her go, feeling a sense of closure I hadn't thought possible. I walked home, my heart filled with gratitude for the life I had, for the love I had found, and for the strength I had discovered within myself. I learned a valuable lesson from Bronwyn's betrayal. I learned that love is not always enough. That trust is fragile, and that sometimes the greatest act of revenge is simply moving on and finding happiness without the person who hurt you. I eventually remarried to Isolde. We moved to a small cottage in the Scottish Highlands, surrounded by the beauty of nature and the warmth of our love. We lived a simple life, filled with joy, laughter, and contentment. And every time I looked at Isolde, I was reminded that even after the darkest of storms, the sun will eventually shine again. Looking back, I see my story as one of resilience and redemption. It's a story of how I transformed from a betrayed husband into a stronger, wiser, and happier man. And it's a story that I hope will inspire others who have experienced the pain of infidelity to never give up on love, on hope, and on themselves. Because even when things seem hopeless, there is always light at the end of the tunnel. You just have to be brave enough to keep walking towards it. Summary. Alistair, an IT specialist in Manchester, discovers his wife Bronwyn is having an affair with her boss, Mark. The revelation shatters his world, leading to a painful divorce and a period of intense emotional turmoil. While Bronwyn faces the consequences of her actions, including losing her job and reputation, Alistair embarks on a journey of healing and self-discovery. He eventually finds love again with Isolde in the Scottish Highlands, realizing that the greatest revenge is moving on and finding happiness. His story is a testament to resilience, offering hope to those who have experienced betrayal and emphasizing the importance of self-love and perseverance. To anyone reading this who has gone through something similar, know that you are not alone. Your pain is valid and healing is possible. Focus on yourself, seek support, and never lose hope. Brighter days are ahead and you deserve to find happiness again. Keep going.